You weren't lying. You hadn't signed him.
Nope, we hadn't at that point, and we were just talking. And I think that Dan actually only made a decision probably in the last week.
There were stories yesterday that said UFC had still offered him fights up until like last Friday.
Yeah, I mean, it really heated up around Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of last week, and I got a call from his manager, Jordan, and Jordan said, look, we want to do the deal with you, and let's get it done. So I said, okay, let's get it done.
So why bring in a guy like Dan Henderson?
I mean, let's look at the landscape. I mean, he's a main event fighter, can fight in multiple weight classes, has fought everybody and anybody. Before he was the UFC fighter, he was a Pride champion and has a historic and the background of who he's fought in Japan and when he fought Vanderlei Silva in Vegas and Pride. I mean, the guy was a Pride champion in 2 divisions. And when you get a main event fighter like that, it's a gem. I mean, they're very few and far between at that caliber.
So when you guys were throwing on money figures, you didn't find his demands outlandish because Dana White kind of went on record almost immediately and said he's just not worth it.
Well, I don't know if our deal is the same as their deal, so I don't have any reference on that. But right. I can tell you it's a deal that we're very happy with and Dan's happy with, and now we're going to go out and do some great fights.
He did give you props about the way you handle things.
That's nice.
It is very nice to hear that, isn't it? Rather than warring with your fighters, which I don't think you've done.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, to me, I'm not going to do any kind of, we don't do this. We don't do business deals where the fighter wins and the company loses. We're very much into doing win-win situations, and when Dan and I and Jordan sat down and got to that place where everybody's comfortable, then we pull the trigger.
And I noticed yesterday, and we're talking about Dan Henderson leaving UFC and going to Strikeforce. Scott Coker's with us, the CEO from Strikeforce. I noticed yesterday that Dan was very media-friendly. Not to say that he hasn't been in the past, but he was more than willing to do lots of interviews yesterday, which is a good sign for you.
Well, and I tell you, and it wasn't something that we said, hey, Dan, you need to say this, or hey, Dan, you need to say that. I think he just had a lot to say, and he had a lot on his mind, and he's kind of been balled up for a couple months, and he just let everything out that he wanted to say, and the rest is history.
So the other intriguing thing I think about Henderson for you guys, and it's not every guy you've signed, but since you've signed some international stars like Fedor, and you've brought guys over from Elite XC who maybe weren't big stars, you've had to mention many times that you need to build fighters. Does Henderson kind of move outside that box where you don't really need to build him with a setup fight?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, Dan can fight anybody. The first fight he wants to fight, what he told me the other day was he'd like to fight Jake Shields at 185, then move up to fight Gegard Musashi at 205, and then he wants to fight Fedor.
Interesting.
Yep. I mean, it's it's kind of crazy, but these are the desires of Dan Henderson, and some we can put together, and hopefully we can put it all together. But it's a lot will depend on Dan's health and how he does, and
yep.
How his weight is. But I think that the Jake Shields fight with Dan would be fantastic, and as well as the Gegard Musashi fight, would just be an amazing matchup.
Well, and for fight fans, those are intriguing fights. You got a guy who's a small 185. Potentially as the first opponent, a guy who weighs in at 205 for the next, and a guy who walks around at 230 in the final one, which may not be the final one. Who knows? At that point, he may have 3 belts.
Yeah, I mean that's his desire, and anybody that's followed Dan's career knows this guy has ducked nobody, and will fight anybody, and we're looking forward to see him fight in Strikeforce against our roster.
Tentatively, what do you think? When would you roll out another CBS card? When would they like to get you guys back on?
I think we're going to be back on CBS probably early second quarter.
Okay.
Maybe the end of first quarter. And those are things that we're talking about right now, but nothing's set. But I think that we're going to definitely ramp up. We're going from doing 12 shows this year to doing 20 shows next year. And I think it's going to be great for the fans. They can watch it free on Showtime and CBS, and you get to see Fedor again next year, and I get to see Dan Henderson fight, and I think Dan will probably fight Jake Shields first. It hasn't been confirmed, but that's kind of the conversation.
Is Fedor most likely in the summer?
Yeah, probably depends on you guys know he's injured right now, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So he still has a pin in his thumb, and he's going to take that out, and I think that we'll probably get a doctor's evaluation probably in the next 30 days, and we'll go from there. But hoping to get these that fight happening with between Fedor and whether he fights Fabricio Verdum or fights Alistair Overeem, but we'd like to get that thing going definitely by summertime.
Could that fight have gone any better against Rogers?
I'll tell you, Rogers really showed that he had the ability and the qualifications to fight Fedor. I mean, who's lasted with Fedor more than one round before?
Who's hurt Fedor that badly?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was at that. I was sitting right in front of you there at the post-fight press conference, and Fedor didn't look like facially the guy who won the fight.
Well, I'll tell you, you know what? I was sitting right at the apron when Brett had him mounted and was pounding away, and I go, "Oh my God, he's going to knock Fedor out!"
Wait,
I go, "Holy moly!"
Did you say, "Oh my God," or "Oh no"?
Yeah, you know what? I mean, part of me was going. I mean, when the fights happen, it's really, I want the best person to win, and but I was thinking, "Oh my God, here's this Rocky-esque story,
yep,
where he's the severe underdog, and this is his shot, and he was from Sam's Club doing tires, and the whole 24/7 or the Fight Camp 360 that Showtime did. This whole story that unfolded, and he's going to knock out Fedor. He's going to be the guy." And then Fedor said, "Oh no, that's enough of that. We're not going to have any more of that tonight."
He's awesome. I don't know if he's pound for pound. He's my pound for pound, but we know there's another guy out there who calls us morons for ranking him pound for pound. But it's been good. You know what I have to say? So far, basically 8-9 months in with several shows, I think this has worked out pretty well for you so far, right?
Yeah, and we're having a great time. And I tell you, we're looking forward to putting great fights and jumping into next year with the Miami show and getting Nick Diaz back on back in the mix and bringing Melvin Manoff to fight at some point and bringing over Aoki. Looks like it's be a March date from what I understand. And just doing some great fights and bringing Fedor back. And like I said, the volume is going to go up from 12 fights to 20 fights, and we're going to put on some big shows. And the nice thing about it is you can watch it all for free.
Good deal. And we've had our talk with Nick Diaz. No weed, son.
we've definitely had our conversation with Mr. Diaz.
Let me tell you, if you don't do it, then you should get Ken Hirschman to do it, because I think he'll do it.
I think we've everybody's talked to them. The camp is very aware.
Yep. Hey, Scott, we appreciate a couple minutes, and we'll see you in just under 2 weeks, okay?
Okay, sounds good, guys.
Thanks a lot. There you go, Scott Coker.